are you paying attention and do you have a relationship with your breast? Because it's really important. Oftentimes, we're not paying attention to the importance of caring for our breast and breast care until we're diagnosed with something or a friend is diagnosed. And then we're like, ooh, oh, my breasts.
I'm Marie McQueen, journalist and proud 50-ish woman, and we are here looking for the true truth in perimenopause, menopause, midlife, and beyond.
Opening our minds to other possibilities is not always easy.
Hotflash Inc.
You're all woman to me. All right, Anne-Marie.
To the Hotflash Inc. podcast. I'm updating the intro to this podcast because I felt like I rushed it, editing it and posting it, and I felt that it was kind of missing something, but I couldn't figure out what. I'm speaking to Dianne Wist, CEO of Violet Daily. Violet Daily makes a molecular iodine supplement. This is something you take that relieves breast pain, swelling, and hardness, a problem for a lot of women in perimenopause and menopause. And it supports breast health over time. It's a non-hormonal treatment for a hormonal problem. She's focused on expanding the company so that women can continue to help women 2 boobs at a time. That's how she says it. I absolutely love that. Now, Lara Briden, who we mentioned in the podcast, who is a fan of molecular iodine, reached out to me and said she was partway through it. She said this sort of like what we would call in journalism the nut paragraph. Iodine shelters the breasts from high estrogen and works by downregulating estrogen receptors and promoting healthy estrogen metabolism. Now, healthy estrogen metabolism isn't something you hear about very often in the mainstream menopause conversation. It's something I strive to talk about more here. High estrogen is a problem in perimenopause that you don't hear that much about. Our estrogen fluctuates and our progesterone drops. But for now, when Diane and I are talking about all of this, I just want you to remember Lara's words to me that she wrote on WhatsApp. If you listen to this podcast and you think, I think this might be something that I would be interested in, you can go to Violet Daily and use the code HOTFLASHING for 10% off, should you choose. On with the podcast. I wanted to tell you that I found out about you because 2 things. Early on, I just was starting Hotflash Inc., but I think my estrogen was really, really high in perimenopause, and I had terrible breast pain, and I just didn't even like someone walking past me, or, you know, if my cat would walk on me, it would be brutal. And my friend, who's a very holistic person, said, you should try this Violet Daily. It really worked for me. And I was just about to order it here to the UAE. And then just like that, after months and months and months, the breast pain went away. And then later on Hotflash Inc., a woman wrote to me about breast pain. And I said to her, try Violet Daily, but make sure you tell me and what happened. And she came back with the most glowing review of what it did for her. And so I'm just so curious about all of it because it seems like you're really doing something to help a problem. And when your breasts hurt, it is absolutely all encompassing. Do you hear this from your customers?
Absolutely. It is the single repeated story, obviously always different because everybody's body is different. But it is the single thing that just keeps me hitting the pavement and really needing to talk more about it. I think really it starts with, our demographic or our avatar for Violet really was, and our clinical trial, really, it revolved around childbearing women. So it was in that sort of phase of life. But what we're finding currently, the majority of our women in our community are women who are in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopausal. I think that's for multiple reasons, but it still just circles us back that Violet really is a solution for the lifespan of women. When they start their menstrual cycle to postmenopausal, they're not menstruating, but they're still having cyclical breast pain.
I think that in my life, I had breast pain probably every month, but I just didn't pay attention to it. How much do you think women pay attention to how much their breasts hurt? Do you have a handle on that?
Well, I think we're told from the very beginning, we start our menstrual cycle and our mother will tell us, oh, that's just part of being a woman. And you just sort of live with it. And now I think well, not I think, I know for, like podcasts like you, women like you, we're really talking about the cycles of life for women. And really we're becoming educated around our needs as women. And I think that doctors have said, take an aspirin, I'll see you next year kind of deal. Just live with it. It's part of being a woman. And I'm here to say, yes, it is a beautiful part of being a woman. Yes, it's painful, but we are the solution. You do not need to be living with cyclical breast pain. You don't. There's a solution. There's a proven solution. And time again, I just love hearing what it's done for women. I just had a woman write to me last week, and she said, I found out about your product. I started it, and within 30 days, my life has completely changed. I can't begin to thank you from head to toe, like what it's done. I mean, some women, like you said, I mean, they can't wear a shirt, they can't wear a bra. It's debilitating. Oftentimes women take time off of work because they're in so much pain. They can't pick up their children. They can't play with their grandchildren. They have to stop normal exercise activity that is so crucial to our overall well-being as women. And there's no need for it. We've got the solution.
Can you sort of frame for us like cyclical breast pain and why it happens, and then why the breast pain in perimenopause and menopause and what types there are?
So I think it's really important, and we really try to emphasize this and on all of our social media platforms, that you are your best advocate. And a lot of that starts with you really understanding and having a relationship with your breasts. Changes in a woman's breast are noted by the woman, not by the physician. So I think it's really important that women are checking their breasts, are monitoring their breasts. There's some really great apps out there that really allow you to track not only your menstrual cycle, but changes that are happening. And so it is a classic. We have a very complex hormone system that, it goes from head to toe. And when you have a fluctuation of the estrogen and progesterone that just naturally occurs as part of the cycle, then you start your period, and that's sort of that slough off period. We experience this surge of hormone fluctuation, and in comes the breast pain, the swelling, the achy, the tenderness. That begins, it can begin on the onset of a young woman's menstrual cycle, and how it can look different for women later on in life, postmenopausal. Again, you're having those radical changes in hormones that are because our body's changing. We're going into a new phase of life. But also with the introduction of hormone therapy. So that oftentimes will be a trigger. Women can be in perimenopause, not having any symptoms. They get on some kind of hormone therapy, and all of a sudden there goes the ups and downs of the hormone fluctuation. And here comes breast pain. Oh. And so I do have a physician that I shouldn't say I have quite a few physicians who actually, any woman that they put on any kind of hormone therapy, they put them on Violet Daily, just as protocol. The dose can vary, but I think also it's not only looking at a lot of my messaging lately has been, breast cancer is really on the rise for women, and it's happening at a much younger age. And so iodine is needed for every cell in the body, and it's anti-proliferative. So it helps to create and combat inflammation, which is a lot of what's going on in the breast when they're cycling. And so really there are benefits to taking violet. It's really interesting. We had a booth at an women's marathon race. And I would watch the women walk by, and they would see the banner, do your breasts hurt or whatever? And they'd be like, no, not me. And they would keep walking. And some of them I'd start to grab them, and I'm like, are you paying attention, and do you have a relationship with your breasts? Because it's really important. Oftentimes we're not paying attention to the importance of caring for our breast and breast care until we're diagnosed with something, or a friend is diagnosed. And then we're like, oh, my breasts, like, what should I be doing? What could I be doing from a preventative standpoint that would help to promote healthy breast tissue? So I think it's I just want to say women who have breasts, like, and then not only that, but it's the whole hormone system. I mean, we know iodine is beneficial to the ovaries, the whole endocrine system. Quite honestly, it's an essential mineral.
So how does it work?
Well, our particular formula, which is different than anything because we're patent protected, we are a molecular iodine, which is a combination of iodide and iodate. And the formulation of it, most iodines that are on the market, you have to be very cautious of your thyroid. That's not to say that by taking violet, you shouldn't be cautious. You need to know that your thyroid is in good working condition before taking it. If you have a thyroid condition, or you have a family history of a thyroid condition, violet might not be for you. I mean, or you need to proceed with caution, or you need to proceed under the guidance of your physician. But our particular formula, you take it, and it's the acid in the stomach that actually makes it sort of come alive. It disperses into the areas of the body that's needed. And then what is excess, you just eliminate out. And we say it's violet daily. Violet, it's the color of iodine, and daily because you really consistently on an empty stomach is how it's most effective.
Okay. And with the thyroid, can you just explain a little bit of why that might be tricky? Is it low thyroid? Is it overactive? Is it Hashimoto's? Like what? Did you know I also have a Substack? That's just a fancy way of saying I have a newsletter. But listen, it's not like every other newsletter. I am the only journalist in the world who's made menopause my beat. And each week I share research, news, products, tips, and tricks from the world of menopause and midlife. Sometimes I even write an essay. Hotflash Inc. on Substack is where I pull together everything that's here and in the menosphere, and I break it down just for you so that we can try and make sense of it all and figure out what to do together in real time. Join more than 5,000 women practitioners, CEOs, and more, and become a subscriber today. You can get my podcast as well as special video and audio drops you can't get anywhere else. Sign up today at hotflashinc.substack.
All the above.
Okay.
And so most iodines on the market, well, I should say iodine on the market, are known to be thyroid toxic. So you have to be careful. Ours is not. Not that you can't uptake it, because if you have something going on, it probably means you are iodine deficient, which we can safely say we're pretty much as a society, we are iodine deficient. I mean, we're seeing it in the studies overall. Thyroid disease is going way up. That's attributed to iodine deficiency. Breast cancer is going up. Breast dysfunction we can even just say that all kinds of breast stuff is going up. That's related to iodine deficiency. And even ovarian cancer is on the rise. And that can be related to iodine deficiency. Also for men. I mean, I have men who are on the product as well, because it's directly related to the health of the prostate. And so the swelling, which oftentimes men have, the swelling of the prostate can be remediated through the use of iodine. So I do have some men on the product for prostate protection and or to address enlarged prostate.
And
issues.
should people take it if they just wanted to protect their breasts and their ovaries?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
okay, and how does that
Yes,
work?
just maybe not taking it every day. Maybe you're taking, we have an insert that goes in our product that says we believe in choice. And that really has to do with, so I have some women that take take one tablet per week, some that take a half a tablet every other day. Some, if you're in and have had a really long cycle of breast pain, meaning I've been trying to deal with this. My doctor has said, quit eating chocolate, quit drinking coffee, quit doing this, eat seaweed. And I've had no relief. I'm miserable. I'm in pain. This has been going on for 10 years. I will often, if I get a chance to talk to them, I will say, okay, you've got a really ingrained pain pathway around this breast pain. So it may take us a bit to break up that cycle and break up the tissue, because it's a lot of women have lumps and cysts that develop that of course create a great big scare. But oftentimes with steady use of violet, you'll see those cysts disappear. You'll see the lumpiness disappear, but everyone's different. So if you're not having any cyclical pain, but you, as from a preventative standpoint, I mean, that you have lots of options. One tablet a week, a half a tablet every other day, a half a tablet a week. It really, I leave that up to the individual and their physician to sort of make those determinations.
You talked about the pain pathway. I haven't heard that before, but I kind of know what you mean, but what do you mean when you say you have a pain pathway? You've been having this pain for a long time. What does that mean?
Well, when you, our brain's involved in everything, right? So we're always sending messages up to the brain and then the brain back. So when some women just will have painful swollen breasts just leading up to their menstrual cycle, maybe the first few days of it, and then it sort of dissipates. Some women don't ever get relief. They have it every day of the month. So those women have a pain pathway from the brain to the breast that is far deeper ingrained, right? And so it's the body talking to itself. And so it's this loop and for some women, they never get any relief. And so they're going to be a little bit harder that cycle might be harder to break.
Yeah, I get it. Because you're feeling the pain and that becomes familiar to you. And then you're worrying and always thinking about the pain. When something on your body hurts, you're just obsessing about it. And so that's the pain pathway. That is so interesting. You mentioned before that people aren't connected to their breasts. I think this is a problem for a lot of us with our whole body, right? Like I'm working on my gut health, and I was talking to a friend who's cleared up her gut health, and we're just saying, like, is it because we're more healthy that we notice the foods, or did we just like eat and just suffer and not really pay attention? Right. I don't know. What do you think about when women hit perimenopause, how much we've been doing that with our various body parts?
I really think that women have been short-sighted in a lot of things. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole of research. So much of the research is done really exclusively on men. Obviously, that's changing, thankfully. But I think that we've become professional women and we're moms and we're aspiring to do bigger and bigger things. And I believe that our body is crashing at just the absolute amount of stress we put on our body, not only just in our mind, but how stacked our schedule is, the foods we eat. I don't believe that the food industry really supports how we should be eating to promote gut health, to promote breast health, to promote our overall hormone health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really believe that we have to be champions for one another as women. And we need to talk more about what's working, what's not working, and the impact of just our everyday life.
Yeah.
I don't know
How
if
many
I answered your question, but
No,
I
you
think
did.
yeah.
How many times has a friend said, or a good friend, like, that's not normal, or this is what I've heard, or, you just mentioned something, you say it out loud, something that's been in your head. It's so beautiful about female friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Clinical research. Can you talk about that?
Dr. Jack Kessler, who is the scientist who developed Violet, the molecular iodine, performed the clinical trial. So it was a double-blind clinical trial with over 1,400 women, and between like 74-75% women had an absolute increase in breast health wellness. Like, it really changed the health of their breasts. So again, that clinical trial was done with childbearing women. At that time, we weren't talking about menopause like we are now. And it's just, I have found it really interesting when we have surveyed our community to really see that two things. Our women, a lot of our women in our community, the majority of our women in our community are perimenopause, postmenopausal women, and they have dense breasts.
Mm.
That's a common thread with the women in our community. And so breast deaths is a whole nother sort of rabbit hole to run down, because those women feel their dense breasts every day. That doesn't ever go away. However, it was not part of our clinical trial, but anecdotally, our women are telling us that their breasts are changing over time with the use of Violet.
Like, they're becoming less dense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. This dense breast is something that's developed in my lifetime. It's kind of interesting, like, all of a sudden I have them, and now the recommendations are that they have to advise women about them. So that's really interesting. And I think there is a higher risk. Possibly it's for not finding cancer.
Yes.
It's harder to find cancers. That is crazy. So what else do people get wrong about breast health and breasts, do you think?
Everything is connected. So if your breasts are hurting, you're probably iodine deficiency. If you've got ovarian issues or endometriosis, you're probably iodine deficiency. So I really believe that we should be looking at the whole hormone system and not anything in isolation. Isolation, I believe, is just, it's a trap for not really getting at the whole system, and to know that it's going to change. So I have women who will get on Violet and say, how long do I have to be on the product? And it's like, I don't know. Your body's not my body.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get on, stop the pain cycle, or whatever might be going on with you. At some point, test your system, get off, see where you are, and then you might have to jump back on. You might be able to scale back. There's no magic formula, because what you're eating, how you're sleeping, are you on hormone therapy, are all the other things are going to impact
right
all of it.
And that hormone therapy piece was really interesting because I don't know, it's a really tricky subject and time now because it feels like you can't ever even talk about a side effect from hormone therapy. Like I've actually seen a doctor post common side effects and then a whole bunch of people got mad at her because she posted about the side effects. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Risks and benefits always with everything we do, and you are not me and I'm not you. That's why it really continues to just circle back to we have to have a relationship with our body. I specifically talk about the breasts, but it starts there.
Yeah.
Like really, I'm very in tune with my body. So I know when things are working and not working, but that's a craft that is constantly changing. I need to constantly read. I need to listen to podcasts like yours. I need to listen to people who are doing research about the female body and then look at it in context of the whole. And then where am I in that context? Where do I fit in all of this picture? And I urge women to do the same for themselves.
Okay. So yeah, can you help? Because I want to know how you do that because I feel like this is part of this going to the school of yourself, like at this time of life. And you seem like you're figuring it out, but it's like a complete mystery for a lot of us. And it's a wonderful experience to start to put it together and realize, but could you just give some people some tips on how to start and continue to do that?
Well, first, it's just, if I start with the breasts, the first thing I'm going to say is check your breasts once a month at minimum. Look at them in the mirror. Feel your body. Like we really need to feel our body, but not only with our hands, but also like quietly in our mind, like really feel what is. I think it's being educated, surrounding yourself around things that resonate with you. When something doesn't resonate with you, just pay attention to that and then listen to the next person. And if you're seeing a common thread that this person said this and this person said this and this, and the message is sort of generally the same and it doesn't resonate with me, then it probably just doesn't resonate with you. And I think that I think it's being open to your mind being changed. And then it's open to advocating for yourself. We have to advocate for ourselves. You go into the doctor's office, they do not know your body better than you do, period. There's no way you know better, but you have to go in armed. You have to go in with a list of questions. You have to ask questions. You have to question whatever hard statement they might say to you or give to you. We have to advocate for ourselves. Have to.
Now, this is so hard in this world because everything in this world is saying to trust people outside of you. You can't trust yourself. Like this is what I find because I've been learning to do this. And now it's so obvious to me how many people are trying to get you to not trust yourself. I saw a doctor who's like really popular on social media say menopause symptoms are like the check engine light in your car. And I thought, yeah, I think that's true. If you're having really severe menopause symptoms, the evidence is starting to show that it's linked to larger problems and it's time to, look at it. But then she said the women I worry about are the ones who don't have menopause symptoms because their check engine light isn't on. And I was like, what are you talking about? That you're trying to scare people who have no symptoms. That's just one example of the kind of thing that's coming at us, right?
So I'll give you a little personal side note that really everything is connected. I'm not sure how this one is connected, but it's real. I am having some blood sugar issues,
Okay.
which is, classically, you could probably just call it insulin resistance. And I'm very postmenopausal. I'm 60. I went into menopause at 37.
Okay.
So, and I didn't go perimenopause, menopause. I just hard stop. That was it. It just came to an end. But now at age 60, I'm dealing with this metabolic issue, which I truly believe is just a function, a late function of where my body is, having been in menopause for so long and probably being undiagnosed, because at the time I probably had the doctor I'm working with now said to me, I think you had PCOS. And I'm like, I did. I had PCOS. And so now when you trace back, I mean, who was it? Somebody I saw on social media today wrote, your problem today was created, at age 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is true. And so now I'm going to circle back to the importance of breast health. You may not think you have a problem today, but how and what you do to advocate for yourself, whether it is drinking more water, walking every day, or taking Violet daily every day, you're going to see the results of that 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're creating our reality for 10 years from now, and our reality of today was created 10 or 20 years from now. So, so what do I really want? I want women to be proactive, because prevention is the cure, period.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to that 18-year-old and say, protecting and having a relationship with your breast is critical, because you'll need that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years. I want to talk to that menopausal woman and say, look back on your life. What were you doing? And what were your habits? And what do you need to change today, so that 10 years from now, you're looking back and going, I made some good changes. I changed the trajectory of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I'm always trying to think of ways to get women in their 30s to think about perimenopause and make some changes so that you don't hit a wall and you feel like you have to change everything at once.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've yet to tap into that audience. Not to say that I'm not talking to them, because for sure we are, and we've got enough of them in our community, but I really need to hit that community, because that's the 60-year-old me helping to heal the 20-year-old me, right? That's the best. That's the best thing I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're hoping to expand, you've got expansion plans. How do you fit in the perimenopause business landscape? We see telehealth for hormone therapy. We see gadgets and gizmos. We see supplements. How are you fitting into that sort of gold rush that's happening?
That's a really great question. I think it's really just continuing the conversation, being part of the conversation, talking to people like you who are in the industry. I think that, you can look anywhere from medical to health and fitness, people who are helping women, even, with PCOS, or women who are beginning the hormone therapy pathway. It's just reaching and talking to women, and just talking to women, right? I don't know, if I grab a 20-year-old, hopefully she says something to her mom who's, 50. And if the 50-year-old mom, I will say I have quite a few mother daughters in the community, which is a great thing. So I hope to expand the conversation. I hope doctors will start to recognize that, yes, maybe we are acting like it's not a big deal, but quite honestly, fibrocystic breast condition is a precursor to breast cancer, period. The research tells us that. It shows us that. Violet it went through phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials. It was actually headed to be an RX for breast cancer. That was that was the end point. and it takes a lot of money. So that ship was abandoned. We're now a nutraceutical and or supplement that just happens to have clinical trials to back it, like most supplements do not. And we got to I spread the goodwill. I'm hoping people like yourself will introduce me to then the next layer of people who want to have this discussion. And then they'll say, hey, you got to talk to this gal, because we have to help each other.
Yeah.
I don't care the choice you make, whether you take it, don't take it, whether you take it every day, whether you take it once a week, whether you take a half tub. I'm saying, wake up to the fact that be proactive, be preventative. Prevention is the cure.
Any tips for women, since you're on the other side? Did you have a hard menopause? You said it just happened like that. Any tips for how to get through it?
My menopause was very different. I mean, at 37 I was actually trying to get pregnant.
Oh.
And so mine was a very different. I never had night sweats. I never had any of those symptoms. I just had the absolute abrupt stop of a cycle that I loved in my life. I never, a lot of women hate their menstrual cycle. I never felt that way. I always felt pretty dang good about my menstrual cycle. I loved when it came every month. So, and it's very different than it was when I was 37, the landscape that is currently today. I've learned a lot now listening to all the information that's out there so readily available and reflecting back and going, oh, and so I think it's really just listening. If there's anything, women, I would ask, your body is always talking to you. Always.
Right.
And if you're too busy, you're not going to hear it. And if you're too busy or you're too stressed, the knock will get louder. It will become a pound. It will become breaking the door down. So back off to go forward. Like, really, honestly.
I love it. That's an amazing tip. Everyone needs to hear that, including me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is true.
That's awesome. Well, you're doing great things, Diane, and I'm really excited to hear where you go and see what you do. And it is nice to talk about a supplement with clinical research behind it, because otherwise the argument is that we don't have any research for it.
I mean, honestly, there isn't. We are it. When anybody speaks, and there are clinical trials, there's research. You can Google it. There's lots of research, and they'll compare the typical. I'm not going to name anything. Typical that individuals will go on, and to a molecular iodine, which is us, and we are the most effective and the most beneficial and the most sought after form of iodine.
I wish I'd heard about you earlier. And I think that the research is still putting this all together, but there has to be a link between just the explosion in chronic disease and cancers and everything else. So anything that helps is good.
I think if I had to leave and go off on an island, and I could only take one supplement with me, it would be iodine, because of what it feeds in every cell of the body. It would be it. And I'm not saying, one versus the other. And I'm not saying that just because it's violet. I'm saying because we know that.
Yeah.
It's a little Google research away to know that iodine is essential for every cell in your body.
Do you have people with thyroid problems who take it?
Yes. Actually, I've had women who have taken it and healed their thyroid.
So what's going on there? That's why I'm confused.
Well, if you're iodine deficient, you have to be careful. And I'm always cautious, because there's a liquid iodine that a lot of women will use, but you really can destroy your thyroid. you have to have a carrier. You have to have dosage properly. The iodine has been used to heal the thyroid in many settings. It's typically in the natural setting, naturopathic doctors. I don't want to speak too heavily to it because individuals really need to be under the supervision of their doctor.
Right.
If you came to me and said, I have a thyroid issue and I know iodine will heal my thyroid, I would say, you're probably right. However, you really need to be under the supervision of your doctor.
It's just not something to mess around with. Got you.
Dr. Lara Briden has done quite a few articles. She really has a love for Violet Daily. And she's done quite a few articles about iodine, the importance of iodine in the whole hormone system, what she uses it for in her clients or patients. And she just straight up names Violet Daily. And I respect her work.
Yeah, me too. You couldn't have a better person on your side, really, if you were selling a product. Way to go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hotflash Inc. was created and is hosted by Marie McQueen, produced and edited by Sonia Mack. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider, read all labels, and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the products. Information received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem, i.e. menopause or anything else, or any healthcare questions, please promptly see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Marie McQueen and any producers or editors, disclaim any responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of any information contained herein. Opinions of guests on this podcast are their own, and the podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about a guest's qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. This podcast is owned by Hotflash Inc. Media.